Okay, so once we have cut out your shape, and I've got two of them here because I've been using them a lot. They get a little bit messed up, but they're still good for probably 45 uses before the edges get a little bit messed up. But so I have the outside done, and I have my inner layer to remind me that I need that seam allowance. And on the back side of this, from the line, it's 1 inch to the edge where we'll cut. And then I've got it marked for when I cut out the inside layer of fabric, I'll fold that back so it's a 1/2 inch there. So we have the fabric here, and it's 2 layers of clean cotton fabric. And what I find is get some stick pins and just go through. You're just kind of going to go in and back out just to hold the 2 layers together so that they don't move. I don't know if you guys can see, and I can't zoom in on this angle, but I'm just pinning it just so that it will hold it long enough for me to be able to trace it out and cut it. And when I have been making more than one, what I'll do is I'll pin the fabric and I'll lay it, I'll trace one this way. Well, actually I trace one this way, and then I make the next one down, and then I make the next one down, so that I can get 3 or 4 down, and then I trace out and cut those. But for our purposes today, I'm just doing the one. So, and you can use the fabric pencil. This does a pale blue. I do have the yellow, like the chalk stuff, whatever, but I find that the gel pen is pretty awesome with being able to keep the pattern there. So I want to make sure that my edges are lined up, and I'm going to be tracing this out. And I have this outside folded open, so it's a 1 inch from here to here. And I'm just tracing this. And I understand that, well, I can't draw straight lines, so if it is not absolutely perfect, that's okay, because this part is going to be on the inside. You won't even see it when it's done. You just want to make sure that the fabric doesn't fray, because that could pose a problem. Now, we are using cotton. It's breathable. You can use also flannel for your inside edge, but cotton seems to, because it's lightweight here. So, all right, now I've traced this out, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this part, and got my fabric scissors, my fabric shears. And I'm going just kind of on the lines here, and you may need to move some of the pins that you put in holding that fabric, but you definitely want for your fabric to be held. So replace those as needed to keep your fabric secure. And again, this is to remind you guys, I am not a seamstress, so if I'm doing something wrong, let me know, because I'm learning as we go. Okay. And again, my fabric, it's pinned. I've got it pinned in 4 spots so that I can cut this out and keep the fabric. I understand it's not going to be exactly lined up. There may be a little bit hit or miss either side of the line, but it'll be enough that I'll be able to sew it. All right. So we've cut out the fabric, and then for the inside layer, again, it's this. You're going to fold back so that it's that 1/2 inch there, so that it's a 1/2 inch smaller. And I have already cut out this piece of fabric, and you can see it's this size. It's a 1/2 inch smaller than this outer layer. And if I put the 2 together, you'll see that the front edges line up, because that's what needs to line up. And then the back edge, it has this little bit of overage here. And that's because this is going to be folded 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, and then this is going to be folded 1/4 inch more, but it's going to, this will have a seam on the edge, and that's where the edge will be to put your filter, and then this will fold, and that'll be the edge where you run your elastic through. But let's not jump ahead. So on the inside part, you can see that I have already marked out 3/8 of an inch for the seam allowance here, and then a 1/2 inch on the back side. And I'll do the same on the front fabric. I'm going to mark out 1 inch from the from this flat edge, this back edge here. So 1 inch from there. And I'm just going to make marks because it's it may not line up exactly whenever I'm finished, but at least I know that when I do roll that, this is where I'm going. And so that was on this gauge, that was the 1 inch here. And then I'm going down to 3/8 of an inch. So I don't know if you can see that, that's the 1/2. And I'm going just past that. So between the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch, that little nick there, that's what I'm calling is the 3/8. So on this port here is between the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch. So I'm going with, that's the 3/8. So from the edges of the fabric, if you guys are able to see this, from the edges of the fabric, I'm lining up these little outside pieces. That's the bottom. Line up these outside pieces here with the edge of the fabric, and I'm putting that down, and I'm just making a little note on the fabric of where that seam is going to be. And again, this is 3/8 of an inch or so, and I'm just tracing around the 3 sides that is not the part by the ears. And you can do this with a marker. I'm doing it with an ink pen because this is going to be a mask, and Sharpie does not smell that great. So I don't know if you want to have your mask smelling like Sharpie, but you can also use a fabric pen or whatnot. So you see, I've marked it to where I've got this 3/8 inch seam allowance the whole way around, and then on this back side, it's 1 inch from the edge of the fabric to this other where I've marked. And then I will pause here and do trying to work it in segments so that you guys can follow along. So you can play it back if you need to, but it's 3/8 of an inch here and a 1 inch here, 3/8 of an inch around, and then the 1/2 inch on the back side of the inner layer. Okay, and so this is kind of where we are right now.